Hello, world history students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 34, Section 3, Asia and the Pacific. And we're going to talk a little bit about China, kind of in the time of the post Cold War era. So, starting in 1989, many people in China were killed in what is known as the Tiananmen Square incident. This was a democracy protest movement that was really started with some things that were happening primarily over in Europe. In 1989, we started seeing students demonstrating in places like Berlin, um, and actually promoting the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. Well, students in China were kind of feeling the same way, and they had occupied Red Square, or Tiananmen Square in this case, in Beijing, with the hopes of bringing some attention to their desire to have democratic reforms within their own country. As a matter of fact, some of these students gathered and they built their own Lady of Liberty that you see pictured here to the right. Some of the protests went on for a period of time. Matter of fact, I think they went on for about a month. But some of the leaders in China were getting frustrated that these kids were getting all these, all the media attention and such. And so there was a call to start using some force. And unfortunately, the military, when they did start marching out, they didn't bother to issue warnings uh, or to fire just a few shots to kind of clear the square. They just went in and responded full force. And not only that, but they used tanks uh, going after these students who probably ranged in the age of anywhere between maybe ages 14, 15, on the way up to maybe their late 20s, early 30s. Needless to say, this captured a lot of attention around the world. News agencies like the BBC and CNN literally were broadcasting scenes of this event 24/7 on their networks. Um, One of the things that I do want to point out is the photo in the bottom left hand corner with the tanks. If you look down towards the very bottom left hand corner, you might notice that there is somebody standing in front of the tank that's pictured there. And this individual became kind of known as Tank Man. The fact that he was able to stop this whole column of tanks by just walking out and standing right before them. What courage that would have taken to do so. But the identity of this individual has been something that has been lost, basically over the last 30 some odd years since this event took place. And there are a lot of people that speculate that Tank Man was eventually arrested and taken to jail and probably tortured, if not executed, for his participation in this event. So, needless to say, the government responded very harshly, but at the same time, they were kind of listening, and there were some reforms that did take place in the 1990s, but the question is at what expense? Yeah, you can loosen up your economy, but China has still proven today that they have no tolerance for people who speak out against the government. Anyway, in 1997, city of Hong Kong, which for a long time was actually kind of a territory held by the British, was given back to China and became part of China. The thing that's interesting about Hong Kong is because it was kind of like a kind of an isolated city for a long time. You had a portion of the population that was very proficient in English. As a matter of fact, they had their own stock market, and they still do technically to this day. That they had more ties to the Western world than they probably did to China. Well, now that China has this, this has kind of opened the doors to China's economy and its economic growth. Anyway, let's talk about Korea. The original leader of North Korea was a man named Kim Il sung, who you see pictured down in the bottom left hand corner. He ruled basically starting before 1950, and ruled until his death in 1994. When he dies, his son, Kim Jong Il, who you see kind of in the middle of this group of pictures, the man that's kind of wearing the kind of the I guess you could say the orange, or not orange, the green jumpsuit there, led North Korea until his death in 2011. And today, his son, Kim Jong un, is currently the leader of North Korea. All these men are family. All these men had a way of being very, I guess you could say, intolerant of people who descended from their opinion. Living in North Korea today is very oppressive, and so was life under these leaders that you see pictured there. Even today, our government is very concerned about some of the weaponry that North Korea has. They do have the capacity to not only make but also launch nuclear weapons, which obviously makes them, a force to be reckoned with, and maybe a country that the rest of the world has to respect in some way or another. Anyway, North Korea's economy has differed a lot from the South. And part of that is because the communist North economy has really deteriorated because of their strong tactics and lack of tolerance. A lot of countries have issued sanctions against North Korea, and their economy has failed. Matter of fact, in the 1990s into the early 2000s, there was a great concern about widespread famine in North Korea because of some of the policies that these leaders had implemented. But if you go south of that 38th parallel, South Korea's economy has really improved. And a lot of this is because of trade with not only the United States, but with Japan and the rest of the world. There are some really strong companies, Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, all coming out of South Korea who have done well for themselves. The Asian tigers. This was a group that was developed in order to provide citizens with education and training in South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Singapore. And our Asian tigers took advantage of economic aid from the United States and focused on producing goods for export. And not only has South Korea benefited, but so have all of these other nations as well. In 1997, there was a financial crisis, and this resulted in a situation where foreign countries invested heavily in these Asian tiger economies. But there was a lack of government regulations that led to problems. And eventually, we had some issues with banks beginning to fail, maybe not necessarily doing the necessary homework to ensure that these businesses and governments could handle the boom to their economy. Thank you very much.